Good morning, everybody. My name is Ron. I reside in Manitoba. I was diagnosed back in August of 2020 with renal cell carcinoma. In November of last year, the cancer had metastasized to my lungs and also to my spine, and I ended up with a spinal compression.
I'm Doug. I reside in Edmonton, Alberta, and I was diagnosed in March of 2013 with stage 4 metastatic kidney cancer. And forthcoming, I had a full nephrectomy and wedge resections to remove the spots on my lung. How did that change, or how this living with this now has changed you on like life?
You know, it's interesting because I've done a lot of introspective thinking since all of this has happened. And I feel pretty fortunate. Like I'm 62 right now. And about a decade ago, I really started reassessing things in my life and just kind of looking at things and saying, am I really heading in the direction that I want to go? And so because I did a lot of that work, I don't feel so much like my perspective on life has really changed that much. I think it's just more laser focused. And I'm more convinced that I was heading on the right path for me. I'm a person who lives in the moment. Before I was more of a person of always planning in the future. You know, life is just around the corner. You know, you're trying to achieve things, all that kind of stuff when you're young, and waiting, you know, to really live life. And over the last decade, I started to focus more on living in the moment and not being so concerned about, you know, should have, could have done this, should have done that. And so I guess the way I live my life, and I'm doing it even more intentionally now, is to just learn from my past, learn from anything, mistakes I've made or any experiences that I've had, including this one, which is a pretty radical and crazy change because it has in other ways upturned my life, and we'll talk about that. But learning from my past, living in the moment, but still planning for the future. I mean, I think it's important. I mean, you need to have plans, otherwise you're never going to get anywhere, but not living there, not living in the past, not living in the future, but just really being grateful for every single day. And I would say, I'm getting emotional, I could feel it.
I can't. I have to. I can't agree with you more on that, Ron. I can't. It's very similar. Same sort of thing. I was at the high point in my work. Like I was doing good. I had straightened a lot of things out. I had a heart attack in 2007, so I had went through some therapy, part of their program, the rehab program.
Right.
And it helped immensely with my work life. So I had finally gotten that balanced out.
Right.
And then this kind of upended all that. But the way now I do exactly the same thing. I take the days as they are, and what I find is I'm not bothered by things that used to bother me. Like if you're in traffic and someone cuts you off, it's like, whatever. Like, it's like, that's not really important in the big picture. You know, if it's a nice day out, like, you know, today, if it's sunny out and nice, I will forget whatever I have to do, chore wise or some other things, and I'll take off and go enjoy whatever the day is. Take the dog for a walk and enjoy the sunny day. And, you know, if it's a crappy day and not feeling good, that's the day you spend inside. But try to do more things like that. When I was on treatment, I was on a week, off a week. So I had to plan, I planned everything on those weeks that I was off. So someone would say, let's go do this, or someone would plan like, oh, let's go on vacation next March. That wasn't a thing. I didn't plan that far ahead. It was more like, well, we'll see next week. I'll probably be feeling better. So we'll do something then. I didn't plan weeks out. And unfortunately, unfortunately, I don't know how, it depends on your point of view, but I still follow that same, you know, my wife would say, well, let's plan to go to Europe or something. I'm going, I can't even put that into my mind of how to plan for that. And I've been doing this like almost 8 years now. Like, so it's kind of ingrained in the way I think now. It's not that I'm objecting to do anything. It's more of, I'll pay the extra and do it on last minute. Like, next week, and my scan was good, everything's good. Okay, we'll go. Let's go right now, like, kind of thing.
Well, actually, I'm going to share something with you, and then I'm curious about how that makes you feel, because I think for some people to have been at the height, and I was at the height of my career. I was a director dealing with 18 to 25-year-olds in a college setting, for leadership, and loving what I was doing. And then for me, completely unable to work. And it was kind of a shock to me, because I thought I'd 8 weeks, 10 weeks, I'll be going back to work. That's what I had in my head. And then all of a sudden I wasn't going. But for me, I miss it. I miss what I was doing because I loved what I was doing. But I think at my point in life, I'm glad that I got to the point where my professional life didn't define me.
Yeah.
When I was younger, it mattered. Like, it was almost like who I am and what I do were the same thing. And as the years went on, it became, well, my occupation is another way to express myself. I want to be able to, I was dealing with young people and helping them get started in life. And, for me, that was really exciting. And I loved doing that. And it was a way for me to be able to give back. But my job didn't define me. And, I'm thankful for that, because all I've done is I've gone from being productive that way to just finding other outlets to be productive.
I can't agree more. Yeah.
And so, like, I've picked up photography. Like, I had photography before, but I really picked it up and taking it a lot more serious now. I hadn't done any drawing in the creative sense since I was in elementary school. And now I'm drawing, and I'm finding I'm actually pretty good at that, and kind of getting into the painting end of things. I'm making connections with colleagues still, and I've kept those connections up, because they'll disappear if you don't keep that going. And I've kept that as friendships now. And then connections with alumni and old students, and going out for coffee with them, and still checking in on them and seeing how their life's going, and then sharing my photography online with some of my thoughts and different things. And I just think that, even if you're at a point where you're technically unable to work, and that's only because I can't work straight 8 hours or 12 hours or whatever it is that's needed to do, I can still be productive. And I think it's, instead of defining yourself by your job, I think you need to go, how do I want to express myself? How do I want to give back? And what's important in life to me? And the bottom line is, relationships are the most important thing to me. I mean, that's what life's about. And I can't remember who said it, but he had said, life is about relationships and everything else is just details. And so for me, any way that I can make connection, that makes life worthwhile to me. So that's kind of where I am. For you, how are you dealing with the fact of not having that professional life right now?
Yeah, I had, yeah, the group, the core group that I was with at work, even though when I got sick, I still saw them as soon as I could see them. And I went out for lunch every Friday, anticipating that I would be coming back at some point. So, they would keep me abreast of what was happening. In fact, some of my projects that we were working on were still ongoing for a couple of years after I had taken off. So I was, keeping in the loop that way. As that all faded away, I still to this day, I mean, COVID's kind of messed things up a bit, but we still go out every week when we can. Maybe it's now more like a month, and we still get together and talk about what's going on in the office, or they get to vent on me, and because I don't have the stress but I get to listen to what was going on. So I've kept that way. Same thing, I took on other things. I was a draftsman by trade, so I like drawing and things of that nature. So I thought, okay, I'm off. I'm going to start doing things on my own. and I came up with ended up with a macular hole in my eye, and that's messed up my vision. So I can't concentrate. So I've lost part of that hobby part of me that wanted to draw and things like that. So when you say you took up that was, yeah, I'm going, oh yeah, I tried, I bought the sketchbook, but my eyes can't focus the same way anymore. You know, there's lots that keeps me busy. People always, the funny thing is, whenever I'm away or meeting somebody, says, what have you been doing with your time? And I go, I don't know, but I'm busy.
Yeah, me too.
I'm busy doing something. I've taken up cycling and more religiously, I guess. Even trying in all seasons cycling.
And I can't cycle. See, so now you can't draw, I can't cycle. I like cycling.
It's always, yeah, it's always a trade-off someplace, right? So you find something else to fill that, but there's always something that that fills that time. I never said that I was sitting around feeling depressed or sorry for myself or something. I try not to go into that headspace. That's very difficult, but I always view it as kind of like, at that point, there's a point where everybody was with me on the same road, and I took a path. I had to take a path that was different, and everyone else that I know took this other path. So they're living a completely different life than I'm living, and they can't see what I see on my path, but I can remember what it was like on the other path.
Yep.
So
I completely relate to that. You know, it's funny because people don't recognize they think if you kind of look towards the positive, that somehow you're pretending that bad things don't happen. And I mean, you and I are good examples of where bad things can happen in life. You know, you end up with kidney cancer and you end up having surgery and everything. That's not pleasant. But it isn't about that. There's bad things, and if you want to look for them, you can find tons of them. Like, I mean, if you want to spend the time looking for it, but if you want to take the time to find a lot of good things, there's a lot of good things. I'm the same as you. I'd rather fill up my headspace and my life with all the good that's out there rather than wasting my time pulling in all the stuff that's bad.
I won't lie to you and say there isn't dark times,
Well, of course.
But I try to move past them. Like,
right.
I guess I feel entitled to have that point to get through it.
Yes.
Find a way to get through it and then move on. Even though when I was really, really sick, I was occupied by what's next. Like okay, so you're doing this, then what are you going to do to me? And then what are you going to do? What's the next thing before you run out of things to do?
Yeah.
You know, like, just, okay, I was open. I guess part of it is being open to, I guess it would be like challenges or changes, adapting to changes in your life and things, and just being open to those changes and taking some advice from professionals, doctors, that this is the right way. Or, I mean, I could have, I thought about this after, and maybe it's not even quite related to what we were talking about, but it was like you see in the movies where people get diagnosed with something, terrible disease of any sort, and they have their bucket list, and they say, oh, I'm going to do this, 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 and this, and it's, and then they die, kind of thing. And I was always, that was probably a choice, but I don't really have a bucket list.
I don't either.
But I just said, well, I'm not going to do the bucket list thing, so I have the equal chance of you helping me with treatment that is rough. There was never any hiding or sugarcoating that. It's not going to be a pleasant thing. But there is a chance that you might live a little longer than the 12 months they gave me or 24 months they gave me originally. So I was more willing to take that chance. I'll take some of that pain and suffering, and maybe I might get through this longer. So it's kind of a,
it's just interesting because talking to you, I just can't believe how many similarities there are in that. Yeah, because for me, it's the same thing. It's not a bucket list. I'm already living my life. And it's funny because people will say, well, same with the pandemic, same with kidney cancer. It's like, don't you want to get back to normal life? And I said, well, I'm living life. And I've been kind of thinking about, what are important things that I think people should know just from my perspective. And I think that's one of them is, loving yourself. If you're looking relationally, because relationships, I was saying relationships are the most important thing and everything else is details. Loving yourself, for me, in faith, loving God, and then, just loving other people. So to me, that's critical. I would say the second thing for me is focus. And you mentioned that you were talking about the different things that you were focusing on. You can only focus on one thing at a time. So for me, it would be focusing on what I can do and not what I can't. I wrote down here what I have, not what I don't, and what I've gained, not what I've lost. Letting go of things I don't have control over, because I can't control anybody else. I can't control all my circumstances. I can't control what other people do, but I always get to choose my response. And I'm not talking about being emotional. You could be overwhelmed with emotion and that's fine. But moving forward from that, I do get to choose my next step. And then just being grateful and being thankful for the people in my life, for the things that I have, even this imperfect body that I'm dealing with, that I'm dragging around right now. But you know what? I can be thankful that I can at least drag it around. You know what I mean? I'm believing for better than that. I would like to, I would love to just have my whole body healed and have no issues and whatever. But I can be content in the moment. That's
I have to agree with you on most of those are excellent takeaways. I mean, I always viewed it as I wasn't supposed to get as far as I am now. So every day I look back, it's an experience I wouldn't have had.
Yeah.
So if you can make it another day, you can look back and say, well, that's what happened on those. Like I got to see this, or I got, even if it's bad stuff, at least I know about that. I was always like, life is like a movie that you never want to end.